Welcome to the Indie Beacon Show, where readers can discover great new indie authors. Find us on all major podcast systems and YouTube. Join Mary Ann Faremouth on today's show.
Welcome to the Indie Beacon Radio. My name is Mary Ann Faremouth, and I'll be your host for this episode. Indie Beacon Radio is a division of Authors Marketing International, an organization that supports authors all over the world. And I will be your host on this episode. And I'm delighted tonight and excited to introduce an author that is a dear friend of mine. And not only is Breeda Miller an author, but she's also a speaker and a playwright. So without further ado, let me introduce Breeda. Breeda, welcome. We're so happy to have you here tonight.
Oh, thank you so much, Mary Ann, and I'm delighted to be here.
Well, tell us, you've written two amazing books, and both of these books are about how we can take care of others and ourselves. Tell us about these books, how they're different, and what made you write books like this, Breeda?
Well, they were the books that I wished I had when I was caring for my mother. I didn't know what I didn't know. All I knew was that I loved my mom. I was an accidental caregiver, but I found I was overwhelmed. I was isolated. I was exhausted. I didn't know anything about resources or how to get help. And I had lots of books to look at, but honestly, they were big and thick. And by the time I sat down to read, I was asleep after 2 or 3 pages. I was so tired. So that's really what inspired me to write something that was accessible, that was sweet and funny and warm, and also extremely informative. And that's the basis of my books.
Well, how wonderful. And I know that, you know, my parents both, my father had a stroke, several strokes, and my mother had lung cancer. And so I know sometimes, Breeda, the caregivers need more help than than the people that we're caring for. And so I'm sure a book like this has really helped a lot of the caregivers. And tell us about the second book that you wrote, though. I mean, that's really neat. And I think that came out, or you started writing that during COVID, didn't you?
It did indeed. And, you know, to your point about caregivers really needing help, so many times I'd speak to physicians and they would tell me that they would have to really keep an eye on the caregiver, the person who's bringing the primary patient in to be seen, because they often need as much help and support as the primary patient. So, but the second book I wrote is called Take a Break Before You Break. And it is 52 practical self-care tips. It takes off where the other book left off in a way. It's half of the book is about mindset. One of the biggest challenges for caregivers and for anybody who's in a caring profession, whether they're in healthcare or social services or teaching, if they're serving others, so many times we just feel it's selfish to take care of ourselves. And self-care isn't selfish, it's survival. The way I love to think about it is it's not, you know, it's thinking about not giving what's left of you, but the best of you. And in order to give the best of yourself to others in service of them, you need to take care of yourself. And it's essential, and it's really hard for many people to get to that point. So the second book, the first half of the book, is tips and ideas about to get your mindset in order about self-care. And then the second half are actionable ideas, creative ideas, things that are a little bit different apart from, you know, taking a bubble bath or getting a manicure or a massage, which are wonderful things, but other ideas as well.
Well, I think that's wonderful. And, you know, I'm an executive recruiter, and I work with people trying to help them, you know, find jobs and expand their careers or find a new job. And what I hear from my clients, Breeda, is that when these people come in to interview, if they haven't done something for self-care, and they come in and all they do on the interviews talk about, oh, you know, I can't find a job, or, oh, you know, I'm having a hard time with these kids, are driving me nuts, or, you know, they don't come in with, you know, doing something, either meditation or Tai Chi or yoga or something where they do self-care. They go into the interview and typically they don't get the job offer because people don't want to hear that. And I think your point is so on and so right, because it all starts with mindset, right? If we have, and I write about that, so we have that in common. I resonate with what you're saying. If we don't have our mindset in alignment with our highest good and take care of ourselves, not in a narcissistic or selfish way, but in a healthy way, that we take care of ourselves so that we can give to others, we can help others, we can interview well. I think that COVID has taught us that, and I think those books that you're writing certainly, promote that message. And I think it's so necessary for these times. I really do.
I do, and I think especially when you're caring for someone that is really challenging, a person with a mental illness or dementia, and you need to have your wits about you. You need to have I think of it as mental agility, because if you're caring for someone with dementia, it's like a day at the improv without the applause. You have to be creative and resourceful and say, oh, who's walking out of the bedroom today, and what are they thinking about, and what do I have to deal with, and how can I do it in the most productive and positive way possible. And if you are a wreck and you are exhausted and overwhelmed, it's not going to go well.
No, it's not. And I think that, I think it's wonderful that you wrote this second book during COVID also, because I think that, so many of the people I talk to anyway, being a recruiter, are so focused on finding a job and finding a job. And they're so stressed about it that I think sometimes if we step back and do take a break, then we can go forward in a way that's much more beneficial for ourselves. And we can, come across to an employer in a way that is more to our advantage. So I think the second book you wrote is really important. Now, I know that you have a really exciting new project on the docket. And I have to say, I should have mentioned this earlier. Breeda and I, funny enough, grew up 3 blocks away from each other. And we never even knew each other growing up. And we just connected through mutual friends on Facebook. How neat is that? So she's very near and dear to my heart, an ex-Detroiter, suburb of Detroit. But tell us about this new exciting project you have on the docket.
Oh my goodness, Mary Ann, I am just bursting. I do feel that of all the things that has happened in the past 15 years, sorry, it feels like 15 years, 15 months of COVID, that I have come full circle. And, I know I've read in your books about finding your truer self and really thinking about, what is your passion? What lights your fire? What could you do? Or what could you find a way to do? Well, anyway, I asked myself a really important question, and COVID gave me the opportunity to really think about this. And it was, what would I do if I knew I couldn't fail? And I went back and, I have a background in theater and in acting, but I made a very practical decision early on in my career that that wasn't for me, that I wanted to have a family and a normal life, and the risk of being a professional actress, and I didn't think I could be a writer at that time, just wasn't in the cards. Well, now I'm at the stage of my life where I'm able to make those choices and those decisions, and I decided to go for it. And it took me a while to really think and think and think. And this idea had been rolling around in my head, honestly, for the last 10 years about what I would write about. And I put it all together. The title just came to me. I have a director, and it is a play, and it is called Mrs. Kelly's Journey Home. And I have to say, I think it's the best thing I've ever done.
Wonderful. Who is Mrs. Kelly?
Mrs. Kelly is my mother. And it is the story that I think will resonate with so many people. It's a story of my parents' immigration from Ireland, becoming Americans, and all the shenanigans that ensued, with that process. And living through the 60s in America and seeing things through Irish eyes. And then my journey as to become a mother, learning about infertility and then international adoption. And then my whole thing with roles changing when I became my mother's caregiver and learning about dementia and ultimately hospice. And while, it certainly, is sad with the loss of Mrs. Kelly, but the story is about all of the journeys that we take and how we all look for home, that we all want somewhere that we're going to feel safe and special And Mrs. Kelly's journey home is ends on a very high note, a great upbeat. It's inspiring. It's funny, but I promise your eyes will probably leak a bit as well.
All right. Well, we have to take a little break for our sponsors, and I love what you just said about what would we do, what would we all do if we didn't think we could fail. Let's hold on to that thought, and let's give our sponsors a moment to talk about what they've got to offer. Thank you.
Hello, I am the author Denise Bryson. My first book is The Things That Cross My Mind, Inspirational Poetry with Life Lessons. And then my audio book is Love's Reality. And it is also inspirational poetry with a jazzy flair. And then my new book is The Sex, the Lies, and the Soul Ties. They're really short stories written from a poetic expression. And then I have my first children book series, the Blinky series, which the first book is called Meet the Coins, and it is both in English and Spanish. And then the new book From Coins to Bills. I am the author, Denise Bryson.
Mary Ann Faremouth is a career consultant with 30 years experience in the national recruiting world, a multi-award winning author in multi-genres, and a speaker that gives presentations to help you succeed. Her book, Revolutionary Recruiting, made the top 20 global list of recruiting books. Find her on Amazon, your favorite bookstore, or at fairmouth.com.
To embrace your children's imagination, check out Diane Floyd Bame's books for kids. There's The Moonling Adventures, all about the animals in the Serengeti. And then there's Harry the Camel, learning to love yourself just the way you are. Then The Little Girl in the Moon. There's one about friendship, another one about the big ideas, which is an inspirational story. And then Tour Tycho Town, right there in Tycho Crater on the moon. All of Diane Floyd Bame's books are available at B4R Store.
Welcome to the Indie Beacon Show, where readers can discover great new indie authors. Find us on all major podcast systems and YouTube. Join Mary Ann Faremouth on today's show.
Welcome back to Indie Beacon Radio, division of Authors Marketing International. I am your host for this episode. I'm Mary Ann Faremouth, a multi-genre author. And today I have the distinct pleasure and honor to have with me Breeda Miller, an author, a speaker, and a playwright. And Breeda was just talking about her second book, and the one question about she asked herself when she decided to do this new project, and that is, what would I do if I didn't think I could fail? And I think that's such a powerful question. So Breeda, tell us about this new project that you have. You talked about your mother and how she was an immigrant and all that. And I think we talked briefly too about loss and about you losing your mother. But I think all of us through COVID have had and experienced some type of loss. And how powerful would that be if we all stopped in our tracks and said, what would I really want to do if I didn't think I could fail? And I think that's powerful. And tell us about this project. I mean, when is it coming out and what's it about? I mean, tell us a little bit more about it. It sounds so exciting.
Well, you're getting the scoop, okay? Because it's in development right now. The play is written. As I said, I think it's the best thing I've ever done. And the thing about this story that I think will resonate with people is that my mother was, she didn't do anything spectacular. She didn't invent anything. She was my mom. She was an ordinary woman, but she had an extraordinary outlook on life. She loved life. And she taught me that even as she was at the end of her life. So the lessons that I learned, I have been able to turn into stories that I think will resonate with people, especially at this time when we really think about our priorities, about what matters in life, and how we can find ways to not take things for granted, or to take people for granted, or time. So the stories are funny, they're true, and you might not believe that when you hear them, but they are. And there's, my dad was a salty man, so there's a lot of him there, but it's a solo performance. So I am playing all the roles. There are 4 roles in this play, and it's great fun. But when I think about the lessons learned during this time, it's so important. But I think what's great for audiences, it's a way to learn about being a caregiver. I talk about when I didn't take care of myself and what happened, and it was not pretty. I talk about how I learned to care for someone with dementia because I didn't know. I didn't know the right things to do or the wrong things to do. And so the stories are funny, they're touching, but in a very subtle way, I think it's a way to educate people about caring for others, about caring for yourself, caring for your parents, and ultimately how to let go and to find ways to comfort others. And when you do that, you can often comfort yourself. So great life lessons, but they don't hit you over the head.
That's wonderful. And I know when we talked earlier in the Blue Room, we talked about how you're using this play for organizations for fundraising.
Yes,
And
yes.
the thing that's so wonderful that I really resonate with, and I think is so great in professionals like yourself, is that, we can become accomplished, we can become, accelerated and successful and all that. But if we take what we've done to help somebody else, how great is that? So tell us, I mean, people can, use you and your play and use it for fundraising for their
Yeah, I think this is what is really exciting about this, because one of the challenges is, okay, I've done this wonderful thing. How do I get it out there? How do I really help people? And in my other life, I was a fundraiser and worked in development for a major health system and worked on many big galas and fundraising events that raised a lot of money for really good causes. And so I've taken those skills and put together this concept. And the idea is, if any organization that really wants to reach people over the age of 50 is really the target market, but whether it's healthcare, senior care, any organization supporting an illness of any sort, or hospice, this would be a perfect fit. And the idea is they bring me in, they hire me to put on the show. We rent a theater, they sell the tickets, they price them whatever they want, but have a VIP reception beforehand. Come into the theater, see the performance. It's a 90-minute show. And then afterwards, I join the audience members for a talk back or a meet and greet. And we talk about what the experience was like, what resonated with them, and maybe what the takeaways are. I think it could just be a glorious evening, both in terms of people's hearts, but also a different way to raise money, a different way to reach, to educate, and to support wonderful organizations. And I'm up for that. And I think it's a great opportunity for everybody.
I think it's wonderful. And we're just delighted to have you. And we can feel your excitement and your passion. And that's wonderful too. And I do believe we have to take another break for our advertisers, and we'll be right back.
Publishing marketing package for authors. A $1,500 value, save 40% now. Includes a 6-piece marketing kit of 250 bookmarks, 250 business cards, 250 postcards, 1 table banner, 1 table runner, and 50 download cards, plus book cover design, ebook creation, PDF setups, upload to Ingram Spark, scroll placement, video commercial, and interview on IBS. Plus much more. Email bourgeoismedia@look.com for details, or bourgeoismedia.com.
Hi, I'm Mel Greenberg, author of Running with Our Eyes Closed, book 1 in the Empty Nested series. To the world, Samantha has the perfect life. 3 wonderful children, a loving husband, so she thought, and a life split between Dallas and Italy. When her youngest leaves for college, it all comes crashing down, forcing Samantha to re-examine everything. Over 7 days in one of the most romantic countries in the world, Samantha faces the past she thought she'd overcome and begins to redefine her role as a woman, a wife, and a mother.
What would you do if you had to put your life on hold to care for a loved one? Well, during COVID, almost all of us have been doing just that. I'm Charlotte Canyon, award-winning author, actress, and speaker. And my book, You Have to Laugh to Keep from Crying, shows you how you can revive, thrive, and survive with 4 golden rules. You have to love one another. You have to respect one another. You have to have patience with one another. And most of all, you've got to forgive one another. I'm Charlotte Canyon, and I approve this message.
Welcome to the Indie Beacon Show, where readers can discover great new indie authors. Find us on all major podcast systems and YouTube. Join Mary Ann Faremouth on today's show.
Welcome back to the Indie Beacon Radio Show, division of Authors Marketing International. My name is Mary Ann Faremouth. I'm your host for this episode, and I'm thrilled to have Breeda Miller with me on this episode. She is a multi-talented professional. She's an author of 2 books. She is a speaker, and Breeda has just written a play. She's also a playwright. And before the break, we were talking about her play and the different things that she's going to do with it. So Breeda, tell us, for the people listening out there, if there's a organization or a person listening that thinks, wow, I really want to do some fundraising for this organization, and her market segment is really what I'm after. How do they get a hold of you? And also, tell us about that, but also where are your books?
Thank you for asking. Well, I would like to think that I'm very accessible and easy to get a hold of. They can call me directly here at my world headquarters. And I have 2 websites, and I think they're pretty easy to find. It's breedamiller.com. That's one website, and that is a resource for caregivers or people who want to see some great storytelling, some videos, and read my blogs, and reach out to get terrific resources that are mostly, as far as I know, are free from different organizations that can help you regardless of the situation that you're in, primarily as a caregiver. If you're looking to hire me as a speaker, as a keynote speaker or breakout speaker for conferences, for some in-house meetings, whatever you're thinking, we need someone who's going to be engaging and kind of funny, but also share some really heartwarming stories and really get our team together. You can reach me at breedamillerspeaking.com, and that is my professional speaker website. If you want to send me an email, can't get much easier than Breeda at breedamiller.com. And it's Breeda, so it's BREEDA Miller.com. And Breeda, by the way, my mom gave me that name. It is, I was named after her sister, Bridget, and Breeda is the Irish or Gaelic version of the name Bridget. And the primary spelling is Breeda with 1 E, but when I was the first one born in America, and my mom wanted to make sure that no one called me Breeda, so she stuck another E in there. So that's why it's Breeda. But when people read it, they think it's Brenda all the time. So.
Well, I think it's wonderful. And if somebody wants to maybe use your book in a way that is about, they're at a point in their life where they're at a crossroads and they feel like they're, having a lot of despair. Would that book help someone like that too? Like some of these candidates, Breeda, that I deal with that are, God bless them, they've been on, 30, 40, 50 interviews. And, the work world is different now too. But is this a resource I could say to this person, you need to go take care of yourself. There's a really great book. Would this book help people like that?
Absolutely. And because it's so accessible, it's deceivingly small. Another thing my mom would always say was good goods come in small parcels. A friend of mine described it as distilled wisdom. And it's actually harder, I think, to write something really cogent and useful in a really short form than to write a longer book. So each page has an idea, and there is oftentimes a link at the bottom. So it's just a concept, an idea, a very, very short story, but a great resource to get. And to get the books, you can certainly go to Amazon and look for them there. Another way is to go directly to my website and buy them directly from me. Either website, breedamiller.com or breedamillerspeaking.com has links to the shop where you can purchase the books directly.
All right. Well, I think that's wonderful, and I think those books and your new project sound so helpful and so so useful for these times, because I think so many people are wanting to go forward, and so many people are feeling blocked. And I think if they have a resource, and the one thing you mentioned about asking yourself, what would I really want to do if I couldn't fail? Kind of the reverse of that reminds me of a speech that I heard that I love by J.K. Rowling, who wrote Harry Potter. And her speech was to Harvard, to the graduates of a Harvard class. And her speech was the benefits of failure. So I think, I think your message is, what would I try to do if I didn't fail? But, sometimes, Breeda, even if we try it and we fail, it almost makes us stronger, don't you think?
Absolutely. And I think that this is an example of literally putting myself out there, and having the courage to just do it. And I think it's good. I have a director. I have really smart people around me who are helping me to look at it. We have a formal reading next week, and I have a soft opening scheduled. And the world premiere will be in Michigan in the fall, and then we're good to go. But it really is a great opportunity to present something in a way that will really help people, but will also teach them something, touch their hearts, and maybe bring a tear to their eye. But it's very, very special, and I'm very proud of it. It's called Mrs. Kelly's Journey Home. And if you're interested in it, if you'd like to know more, I hope that you will reach out and ask me, because clearly I love to talk about it.
Well, I can tell. But I also think the one other paramount thing here that's so important to mention is that, Breeda, it's all about connection. It's all about working with groups. It's all about working with people. I know myself, being a member of Authors Marketing International, has been a wonderful experience with me. I remember going to a conference a couple of years ago, and it was the first one I'd been to, and I saw Alan there, and he was talking about this book contest, this short story contest, and it was fiction. He said, "Why don't you enter?" I said, "I've never written fiction." He said, "Well, just take one of your case studies and expand on it." And I did. And I won the contest. But the thing of it is, had I not been with that supportive group and with those people, just like you with your directors, just like you with, going out and talking to people, I think it's, one thing we need now, carefully, of course, with our masks and, and being mindful of everything, is the support of a group, an organization and group. Don't you think that's important?
Surrounding yourself with smart people, experienced people. And the other thing is, around people who are already successful at doing the thing that you want to do, then you're going to get good advice, and you're going to be surrounded with this positive energy that you just can't help but be successful. I truly believe that the universe is colluding to help me be successful in this. And I know my mom is smiling down from heaven. She's delighted because she's the star of the show.
Oh, I'm sure she is. Well, I think too, whatever we give out, I think spiritually and universally, whatever we give out, if we help others, give the good things out, give support out, we're going to get that back. And I think you're a real testament to that. So we've got a couple of minutes here, but tell us again where we can get your books, and when is this play going to be out? You said it's kind of being worked on now, right?
Well, the play is done, and we're just in production. The actual world premiere, I am honestly, this is fresh news. We are waiting on the date from the theater because they've just made the announcement, due to COVID, of relaxing the rules and allowing to have events in this space. So I am, as soon as I know that the specific date, I will have it plastered all over my website and all over social media. But I have a strong presence on Facebook, and I have 3 different Facebook pages. One is Breeda Miller Speaking. Another is Caregiver Coffee Break, which is the same title as my first book. And then my homepage is Breeda Kelly Miller, and you're welcome to reach out to me on any of those sites. And I have 3 rules when I post things. Is it clever? Is it funny? And is it helpful? So those are the 3 things that I post on my pages, and people seem to really enjoy them. In fact, one of the stories that I told last year went viral in a good way, and had over 2 million views on a variety of social media platforms. So I was really happy about that. And that story is, of course, included in the program, in the play, Mrs. Kelly's Journey Home. So my websites are breedamiller.com, and my other website is breedamillerspeaking.com. As I mentioned, Facebook pages. And if you want to just send me an email, it's breeda@breedamiller.com.
Well, we're thrilled to have you with us on the Indie Beacon Radio Show, Division of Authors Marketing International. And I'm Mary Ann Faremouth. I was your host for this very exciting episode. And Breeda, we thank you so much. And we will certainly keep in touch. Again, Authors Marketing International Division, working with Indie Beacon Radio. And we had Breeda Miller on our show, and we're thrilled to have you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching or listening to the Indie Beacon Show, produced by Biala Bourgeois for the Authors Marketing International LLC. Copyright 2021. Voiceover by Biala Bourgeois. If you would like to be a sponsor of the show, please email us at authorsmarketing@outlook.com. If you would like to be on the show, please complete the form found on our website at indiebeacon.com. You may also watch previous year's shows on the website. Music is Frolic of Words, created for Indie Beacon.